Evening, sir. I need to see some ID.
You don't.
Yes, I do. Let's see it.
You're about to make the biggest mistake of your career, officer.
ID now.
Fine. That's my credential. State Judiciary. Stephen Carroll, Circuit Judge.
Put your hands behind your back.
Don't do this.
Hands now.
Oh,
You're
man.
arresting a sitting judge. You can explain it
Call your
downstairs.
watch.
The call came through at 8:42 p.m., a disturbance at a roadside diner. Officer Grant Lively was 2 hours from the end of his shift. He expected another drunk argument or unpaid bill. But when he arrived, the crowd outside had gone silent. Inside, a man in a gray suit stood by the counter, calm, collected, untouched by the tension in the room. Lively asked for ID. The man refused. He said, "You're about to make the biggest mistake of your career." The officer's hand went to his radio. The man's hand went to his wallet. The card he placed on the counter didn't look like a license. It was a state judiciary credential. Lively ignored it. He gave the command. The camera caught everything that followed: the cuffs, the words, the silence, and the moment he realized who he had arrested. Officer Grant Lively's cruiser rolled into the gravel lot of the Bluebird Diner at 8:46 p.m. The air was heavy with late summer heat, the kind that trapped the smell of oil, coffee, and diesel exhaust. The neon sign flickered above the windows, throwing sharp pink light across parked cars. Dispatch had described it as verbal disturbance, male refusing to pay. Standard. Lively had handled a dozen of those this year alone. Nothing special, but as he stepped out of the car, he noticed something that didn't fit. No one outside was talking. A group of truckers stood by their rigs, frozen. The cook pressed his face to the glass from inside. The place looked like it had stopped mid-scene. Lively adjusted his vest, switched on his Bodycam, and pushed the door open. The bell above it jingled once. Inside, every eye turned toward him. A man in a tailored gray suit stood at the counter, hands resting on the formica, his wallet beside an untouched cup of coffee. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't angry. He looked annoyed, like someone whose time was being wasted. "Evening," Lively said. "We got a call about a disturbance." The waitress behind the counter, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes, pointed toward the man. "He's the problem. Been sitting there for an hour, says he's not paying because the food was beneath standards. He called me incompetent." The man didn't turn his head. "I called your service negligent." "There's a difference." Lively walked closer. "Sir, I'm going to need you to settle up or step outside so we can talk." The man looked up at him. His tone was calm. "Officer, do you know who I am?" Lively kept his voice steady. "No, and right now I don't care. You're being asked to resolve a complaint." The man exhaled slowly, like he'd been through this before. "Then I'll educate you. My name is Raymond Cross. I serve on the Superior Court of this county." Lively paused. The name hit something faintly familiar, but he didn't react. "That may be," he said, "but right now you're in a business refusing to pay for services." Cross looked past him toward the camera light blinking on Lively's chest. "You're recording this?" "Yes, sir. For both our protection." "Good," Cross said. "Because what's about to happen will matter later." Lively gestured toward the door. "Let's step outside." Cross stayed where he was. "You have no jurisdiction to order me out of a public establishment without probable cause." Lively blinked once, irritation creeping in. Refusing to pay after consuming a meal is a civil matter that becomes criminal when you refuse to leave. "Incorrect," Cross said flatly. "Under state code, it becomes a misdemeanor only upon verified intent to defraud." "I had no such intent. I stated I was unsatisfied." The waitress crossed her arms. He ate all of it. Lively felt the tension shift. Customers whispered. The camera caught every sound: the soft hum of the neon, the low click of a coffee machine cycling. "Sir," Lively said again, "you need to step outside." Cross finally turned toward him. "And if I decline?" "Then I'll escort you." Cross smiled, but not kindly. "Officer, you're standing on dangerous ground." Lively stepped closer. "Last warning." The judge moved an inch toward his wallet. Slowly, deliberately. He pulled out a leather case and flipped it open. Inside was a gold-embossed ID marked State of Oakview Judiciary. Lively glanced at it, then back at him. That's not a free pass. Step outside. Cross's smile faded. You're about to make an error of judgment so severe it will end your career. Lively didn't answer. He reached out and took the man's arm. The moment contact was made, Cross stiffened. You are under arrest for... Lively began, but before he could finish, the judge raised his voice. This is an unlawful detention. He barked, loud enough to make the waitress jump. You are violating judicial immunity under state law. Lively tightened his grip. Turn around and place your hands behind your back. Cross hesitated. The crowd pressed closer. A few phones came out. Then Cross did something unexpected. He complied, slowly, calmly. He turned, placed his hands behind his back, and let the cuffs click shut. You're making history, he said. Lively guided him toward the door. You're being detained until we sort this out at the station. Cross chuckled. You'll need a bigger station. As they stepped outside, the silence broke. Phones recorded. A woman muttered, That's Judge Cross. Lively ignored it. He opened the cruiser door and seated Cross inside. At that moment, his radio buzzed. Unit 12, status check. You good? He keyed the mic. 10-4, 1 detained, heading to booking. The dispatcher hesitated. Name of detainee? Lively hesitated. He looked back at Cross through the cage divider. Raymond Cross. A pause. Then the voice returned, softer. Repeat, did you say Judge Raymond Cross? Lively frowned. Affirmative. Another pause. Then, stand by. He waited. The radio clicked again. Unit 12. Hold your position. Supervisor en route. Lively exhaled. The words didn't sound routine. He leaned on the car, sweat breaking across his neck. He glanced through the window at Cross, who sat calmly, hands cuffed, face expressionless. Supervisor, Lively muttered to himself. Fine, it took 6 minutes. The hum of tires announced another cruiser pulling up. Sergeant Neal stepped out, a man built like an oak beam, 30 years on the job, unflappable. He walked straight to Lively. You detained Cross? Yes, sir. You know who he is? Yes, sir. Neal's jaw tightened. Why? Refused to pay, refused to leave. He resisted verbal orders. Any threats? Physical contact? No. Neal looked at the car, then back at Lively. Take off the cuffs. Sir, he refused lawful command. Neal's tone dropped. Grant, take off the cuffs. Lively unlocked the door. Cross stepped out, straightened his jacket, and turned around so Lively could remove the restraints. The judge looked at Neal. You'll write this report carefully. Yes, Your Honor, Neal said. Then Cross turned to Lively. What's your badge number? Lively told him. Good. You'll see it on paper by morning. He walked toward a waiting car, its engine already running. When he was gone, Lively faced his sergeant. I followed procedure. Neal rubbed his forehead. You don't arrest a sitting judge in this county without calling me first. So he's untouchable? He's connected. You don't touch what's connected. Lively shook his head. That's not how it works. Neal met his eyes. That's exactly how it works. The Bodycam was still recording. Lively shut it off, not out of fear, but out of exhaustion. He didn't know it then, but that recording wouldn't stay buried. By sunrise, it would spread across every screen in the state. The arrest of Judge Raymond Cross, 12 minutes of footage that would split the department in half, and Officer Grant Lively was standing in the center of it. By the time Officer Grant Lively got home, it was nearly midnight. The glow of his laptop screen lit the small kitchen as he replayed the footage. He watched himself walk into the diner, issue commands, make the arrest. Every sound was crisp. The judge's voice cutting through the quiet, his own tone steady but hard. Nothing seemed out of line, yet something about it didn't sit right. The way the crowd had gone silent. The way his sergeant had looked at him like he'd crossed an invisible line. He closed the laptop, tossed his vest on the counter, and poured a glass of water. The night air outside carried the sound of distant sirens. He had done everything by the book. But the book didn't matter anymore. By morning, the video would. At 5:32 a.m., his phone vibrated on the nightstand. The caller ID flashed Sergeant Neal. Lively answered on the second ring. "Yeah? Don't come in." He sat up. "What's going on?" "The footage." "It's out." "What do you mean it's out?" "I mean it's online. Every second of it." Lively swung his legs off the bed. "Who released it?" "Internal Affairs says it wasn't them, but someone pulled it from the system last night." Lively grabbed his keys. "I'm coming in," Neal's voice lowered. "Grant, listen to me. Stay home. The chief's already at headquarters. Media's waiting outside." But Lively was already out the door. The department parking lot was lined with cameras and news vans. Reporters crowded the steps, shouting his name before he even reached the door. "Officer Lively, did you know he was a sitting judge? Did he identify himself before you detained him? Was this personal?" He ignored them and pushed through the glass doors. Inside, the station was chaos. Phones rang non-stop. Officers clustered around monitors, watching the footage replayed on local news. There it was, the diner, the confrontation, the cuffs. Then the headline below it, "Officer arrests county judge. Bodycam footage sparks outrage." Neal appeared from the hallway. "You shouldn't be here." "I'm not hiding," Lively said. The sergeant guided him into a briefing room and shut the door. The blinds were closed. The air smelled of burnt coffee and tension. Chief Harmon sat at the table. His uniform was pressed, his expression unreadable. He gestured to a chair. "Sit down." Lively sat. Harmon folded his hands. "I reviewed the footage. So did the DA. I followed procedure," Lively said. "He refused to leave. He identified himself, but that doesn't change the law. The DA disagrees. They're calling it a misuse of authority." Lively stared at him. "For enforcing the law?" Harmon's eyes flicked to Neal, then back. "This isn't about right or wrong. It's about optics. You put cuffs on a judge. That judge sits on cases involving our department. So now we protect people based on title? Don't twist this," Harmon snapped. "The governor's office called me at 6 this morning. They want distance between you and this department before the noon briefing." Lively leaned forward. "You're putting me on leave?" Harmon didn't answer. He slid a folder across the table. Inside was a single sheet. Administrative suspension pending review. Lively stared at it, jaw tight. "That's it?" "For now." He signed it, the pen dragging across the paper. "What about the leak?" "We're investigating. IT says someone accessed the internal evidence server using a supervisor code." Neal frowned. "Mine's disabled after hours." "Mine too," Harmon said. "So, unless you've been giving tours, we're looking at someone higher up." Lively stood. "You think Cross had help?" Harmon gave a slow nod. "He has friends everywhere." By noon, the footage was trending nationwide. Analysts broke it down frame by frame. Legal commentators argued whether the arrest was lawful. Civil rights activists praised Lively for refusing to show bias. Judicial advocates called for his termination. The governor's spokesperson issued a statement. "We expect accountability from all law enforcement personnel. An independent review is underway." Lively shut off the TV. Every channel said his name. Every feed showed his face. He tried calling his union rep, but the voicemail was full. At 1:14 p.m., an unmarked car pulled up outside his house. Two men in suits stepped out. "Officer Lively?" the taller one asked. "Yes. I'm Agent Ward, Internal Affairs." "This is Agent Kemp. We're here to collect your body cam and department phone." "I already turned in the report." Ward nodded. "We still need the devices." Lively handed them over. Ward signed a receipt. Kemp spoke for the first time. "For what it's worth, we've seen worse. But this one's political. Keep your head down." Then they left. The next day, everything changed again. A second video surfaced. Not from the body cam, but from a diner customer's phone. It caught the moment right before Lively touched Cross's arm. The judge's voice, the calmness, the warning. The clip spread faster than the official footage. Within hours, hashtags appeared online. Eker Judge Cross, Your Bluebird Incident. Badge V's Bench. Comment sections turned into war zones. Half the viewers saw Lively as an example of blind enforcement. The other half saw him as proof that no one was above the law. Lively stopped reading after the first death threat. That night, Sergeant Neal showed up at his door, out of uniform. "You seen this?" Neal asked, holding up his phone. Lively nodded. "They're calling it the arrest that shook the state." Neal stepped inside, shut the door. Internal Affairs found something. The video wasn't leaked by our system. Then how? They traced the access point. It came from a terminal inside the courthouse. Lively froze. Cross's office? They won't say yet. But the timestamp matches 15 minutes after he was released. Lively's voice went low. "He leaked it himself. Looks that way. Why?" Neal exhaled. "Control. He wanted to frame the narrative before we did." Lively paced the room. "So what's the department going to do?" "Nothing." "Nothing?" Neal's voice was bitter. "The chief's meeting with the governor tomorrow. They're talking about damage control, not truth." Lively sat down, staring at the wall. "He planned this. He baited me. Looks like it." Lively's mind replayed the scene, the calm posture, the precision of Cross's words. He'd known the law inside out. He'd known exactly what to say to push buttons and look composed on camera. The judge hadn't lost control. He'd orchestrated it. The next morning, the media released a new angle, the diner's internal CCTV footage. It showed Lively's hand closing on Cross's arm. No aggression, no force. But the narrative had shifted. The clip was edited down to 10 seconds, long enough to look like an unnecessary arrest, short enough to remove the rest. The news anchor's voice echoed from the screen. "Public pressure builds as demands grow for Officer Lively's termination following the Bluebird arrest." He turned the TV off. His phone buzzed again, an unknown number. He answered. "Officer Lively?" "Yes. This is Attorney Karen Wills. I represent the State Police Union. We're taking your case." Lively didn't speak for a moment. "Why? Because this isn't about you anymore. It's about precedent. If a judge can provoke an officer and weaponize footage, every cop in the state is exposed," she continued, her voice steady. "We've already filed for an injunction against the department for unlawful suspension without due process. But I need something from you." "What?" "The raw Bodycam file. The one you recorded before the upload. They took it. Not the server copy. The local one. You back up your data?" Lively paused. His personal drive. He'd saved footage from his shift before turning in the equipment, a habit born from a glitch last year. "Yes," he said. "Good. Bring it to my office tomorrow." Quietly. That night, he watched the raw footage again. The diner. The crowd. The cuffs. But this time, he paused near the end, right before they exited. There, barely audible. A whisper from one of the bystanders. "Get it online." "He'll love this." Lively replayed it. Same line. Same voice. He scrubbed through the footage frame by frame and found the source. A man near the window, holding up his phone. Not a random diner, a courthouse clerk. He knew the face. It was one of Judge Cross's aides. Lively's pulse picked up. The setup wasn't speculation anymore. It was fact. He picked up his phone and dialed Neal. "I found something." "What is it?" "Proof." Neal's voice went tight. "Don't send it through official channels. Meet me in person tomorrow." Lively copied the frame and burned the footage onto a secure drive. He locked it in his desk drawer. He didn't sleep. Outside, the night was still. Too still. Across the street, an idling car's headlights flashed once before going dark. Someone was watching his house. He stepped away from the window, heart pounding. The tension had shifted. This wasn't about policy anymore. It was about control, of footage, of perception, of who got to define the truth. By dawn, he'd made up his mind. The department wanted silence. The judge wanted spectacle. Grant Lively wanted justice. The morning air was heavy, carrying the weight of silence before a storm. Officer Grant Lively hadn't slept. He sat at his kitchen table staring at the flash drive like it was a live grenade. On it was everything. The uncut truth. The whisper, the clerk, the setup. He'd replayed that scene 100 times until his eyes burned. At 8:07 a.m., his phone buzzed again. Neil's message was short. Meet me behind the old precinct. Don't park out front. No signature. No pleasantries. Lively pocketed the drive, threw on a plain jacket, and stepped outside. The same black sedan from last night sat across the street. The engine was off this time, but he could feel the eyes behind the glass. He didn't look at it again. He drove with no radio, no phone calls, no distractions. The city passed in blurs, streetlights, traffic, faces that didn't look twice. By the time he reached the back lot of the old precinct, Neil was already there, leaning against his truck. You weren't followed? Neil asked. Maybe, Lively said. They're not being subtle, Neil nodded, glancing around. We don't have much time. Lively handed him the flash drive. It's all there. The raw footage, the aide's face, the whisper. Neil took it carefully. If this is real, it's real. Neil inserted it into a small laptop. The screen flickered to life. He played the clip, froze it at the right frame, and zoomed in. There it was. The aide, smirking, phone raised, whispering the words that started everything. Damn, Neil muttered. This changes everything. Only if someone listens, Lively said. Neil looked up. They won't, not yet. But it gives us leverage. Wills will know how to use it. They didn't hear the car until it was too late. A black SUV rolled into the lot, tinted windows reflecting the morning light. It stopped 20 feet away. 2 men stepped out, same suits as the ones who took his Bodycam. Ward and Kemp. Internal Affairs. Ward called out, Morning, gentlemen. Care to tell us what you're doing here? Neil closed the laptop slowly. Reviewing procedure. Funny, Ward said. Procedure doesn't usually happen off the grid. Lively stayed quiet. He could feel Kemp's eyes locked on him. Ward held out a hand. We'll be taking that drive now. Neil's jaw tightened. You don't have jurisdiction to confiscate personal property without a warrant. Ward smiled faintly. This isn't about jurisdiction, Sergeant. It's about cooperation. The air thickened. Lively stepped forward. If you want it, go through my attorney. Ward's smile faded. You sure you want to do that, officer? You're already suspended. Don't make this worse. Lively didn't blink. You want the footage? Get a court order. Ward stared at him for a long second. Then he turned to Kemp. Let's go. For now. They got back into the SUV, but before the door closed, Ward said, You're in deeper than you think, Lively. Walk away while you still can. Then they drove off. Neil exhaled. They're not bluffing. Internals compromised. I know, Lively said. That's why we go straight to Will's. Wills's office was a small 2-story building downtown, tucked between a bail bond shop and a coffee place. No sign, no logo. She liked it that way. When Lively walked in, she was already waiting, legal pad open, phone recording. Her hair was tied back, expression sharp. Do you have it? She asked. Lively handed over the drive. Everything's on there, including proof the judge's aide leaked the footage. She inserted it into her computer, watched the clip once, then again slower. When she froze on the frame, her lips pressed into a thin line. Good, we can use this. How? Neil asked. We file an emergency injunction against both the department and the courthouse. Public interest argument. If this gets suppressed, it'll look like collusion. Lively folded his arms. They'll try to discredit it. They will, she said. But that's why we don't go through official channels. We leak it first, Neil frowned. You want to do the same thing they did? Wills looked at him. No, we show the full version. No cuts, no edits. Truth doesn't need spin. She looked back at Lively. Do I have your consent? He hesitated. Once it went public, there would be no turning back. His name, his badge, his life, everything would be dissected. Yes, he said finally. Good, she said. Then we moved fast. By late afternoon, the video was online. Uploaded from an anonymous account, it spread within minutes. This time, the caption read, Full body cam footage of the Bluebird arrest, unedited. People noticed the difference. The longer runtime, the clear audio, the whisper from the aide, comment sections flipped, support poured in from officers, attorneys, even ordinary citizens. The narrative had shifted again, but with it came noise. The courthouse issued a statement calling the new clip manipulated evidence. Cross himself appeared on TV, calm as ever, denying involvement. Officer Lively was aggressive, he said. I remained calm. If someone edited the video, I expect the investigation to uncover it. The anchor pressed him. Did your aide film the encounter? Cross smiled. I'm not aware of that. Lively watched the interview in silence. Every word was smooth, practiced. The man knew exactly how to stay untouchable. Then his phone buzzed again. A text. Unknown number. You should have stopped. You don't know who you're fighting. He stared at it, jaw tight. No name, no threat of violence, just a statement. That made it worse. Neil called a minute later. You get that message too? Lively blinked. You got one. Same words. Someone's trying to spook us. It's working. Neil's voice dropped. Wills says the injunction hearing's set for tomorrow morning. But she wants you to stay somewhere safe tonight. I'll be fine. Grant, I said I'll be fine. He hung up before Neil could argue. Night came fast. Too fast. Lively locked every door, shut every curtain, and sat in the dark. At 11:48 p.m., headlights flashed outside again. Same black sedan. This time, the driver's door opened. He grabbed his off-duty weapon from the table and watched through the blinds. A shadow moved near his fence. Then another. 2 figures. He stepped toward the back door quietly. His finger hovered near the trigger guard. Then, footsteps on the porch. A knock. 3 slow taps. Officer Lively, a voice said, male, calm. We need to talk. Lively didn't move. The voice continued. You've made a mistake releasing that video. It's evidence. You've compromised an active investigation. Who's we? Lively called out, step outside and we'll explain. He didn't. Instead, he slipped his phone out and texted Neil one word. Visitors. Then he hit record on his own camera. The men waited another few seconds before walking away. He didn't follow. When he looked again, the car was gone. He checked the recording. The men never showed their faces, only silhouettes, but their license plate reflected in a brief flash of light. He froze the frame. Government plate. By dawn, he was done waiting. He drove to Wills's office before sunrise. She was already there, reviewing court filings. He dropped the phone on her desk. They came to my house. She looked up, alarmed. Who? 2 men. Said I compromised evidence. She leaned back, thinking fast. That's intimidation. They're trying to scare you into withdrawing your statement. He nodded. Then it's working on someone higher up. Watch. He pulled up the local news. The headline, Department withdraws support for Officer Lively in ongoing investigation. Wills cursed under her breath. They folded. Neil walked in behind her holding a coffee and looking grim. They didn't fold. They were told to. By who? Neil hesitated. Word is the governor's office ordered it. Said the department's reputation was at risk. Lively felt the anger burn in his chest. So that's it? I'm the scapegoat. Neil's voice was low. Unless you force their hand. Wills straightened. And that's exactly what we'll do. The hearing starts in 2 hours. Once the footage is entered as evidence, it becomes public record. They can't suppress it after that. She grabbed her coat. Let's go make them listen. The courthouse steps were swarming with cameras. Reporters lined both sides of the walkway. Lively walked between them, flanked by Wills and Neil. Questions flew like shrapnel. Officer Lively, did you release the footage? Do you regret arresting Judge Cross? Are you facing termination? He said nothing. His focus stayed forward. Inside, the hearing room was small but tense. Cross wasn't there, but his legal counsel was. The judge presiding over the case, ironically, had once clerked under Cross. Still, Wills didn't flinch. She presented the footage, laid out timestamps, and referenced the aide by name. Every word was tight, factual, relentless. When the video played, the room went silent. The whisper, the smirk, the setup. By the end, even the presiding judge looked uneasy. Wills closed her argument. My client acted within the law. The footage proves manipulation by the other party. This was a targeted provocation designed to destroy his career. We request full reinstatement and an independent investigation. Silence stretched. Then the judge cleared his throat. The motion is under review. Decision within 24 hours. It wasn't a win. But it wasn't a loss either. Outside, reporters swarmed again. Neil covered Lively's exit while Wills spoke briefly to the press. When they reached the car, Neil muttered, "You think they'll rule in our favor?" Wills slid in behind the wheel. "Depends who's watching." Lively stared out the window. The courthouse loomed behind them like a warning. This wasn't over. The line between justice and politics had snapped, and everyone was pretending not to notice. He looked down at his phone. Another message waited. "You should have stayed quiet." Officer Grant Lively sat in the courtroom waiting for the verdict that would decide the rest of his life. The air inside was thick, still heavy with judgment. No reporters were allowed this time. No cameras. Just the judge, a clerk, the attorneys, and a silence that felt rehearsed. Across the aisle sat the department's counsel, stone-faced. Behind them, the judge's aide, the same one caught whispering in the footage, sat in the gallery pretending to read a document. Every second stretched. Judge Randall entered, robe flowing, expression unreadable. He didn't look at Lively. He didn't look at Wills. He sat down, adjusted his glasses, and spoke in a flat voice. "This court has reviewed the evidence and testimony presented regarding Officer Grant Lively's conduct during the incident at the Bluebird Diner." Wills leaned forward. Lively didn't move. Randall continued. "While the Bodycam footage indicates procedural errors by multiple parties, the department's decision to terminate Officer Lively is supported by internal policy. The motion for reinstatement is denied. It was clean, cold, final, no hesitation, no explanation beyond what was necessary." Lively's hands clenched around the table edge. Neil muttered under his breath. Wills stood slowly. "Your Honor, with respect, the aide's involvement is outside the jurisdiction of this hearing," Randall said without looking up. "If you wish to pursue that, file a separate complaint." Gavel down. Session over. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. Outside, the sky was gray. Rain started as a drizzle, turning the courthouse steps slick. The reporters had returned, swarming with microphones ready. Lively walked past them without speaking. He kept his eyes straight ahead, ignoring the flash of cameras and shouted questions. "Officer Lively, are you appealing? Do you think the department covered this up? Is it true Judge Cross intervened in the case?" He kept walking. Wills stayed beside him, silent. Neil followed close behind, scanning the crowd. When they reached the car, Lively stopped. "He got away with it." Wills opened the passenger door. "Not yet. There's still the recording." He looked at her. "You think another video fixes this?" "It's not about fixing it," she said. "It's about showing what they hid." That night the rain hadn't stopped. Lively sat in his dark apartment, lights off, replaying the judge's words in his head. Termination supported by policy. A phrase that meant nothing and everything. On the table was his badge. The number was worn smooth from years of use. He turned it over once, then left it there. His phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number again. "It's over. Walk away," he typed back. "Not until they know the truth." No reply came. 10 minutes later, his doorbell rang. He froze. Then came a voice. Calm. Familiar. "It's Neil." Lively opened the door. Neil stepped inside, soaked from the rain, holding a manila envelope under his jacket. "What's that?" Lively asked. "Backup," Neil said, handing it over. Copy of the footage, affidavits from the diner staff, and the clerk's statement. Lively frowned. "The clerk talked?" "Off the record. Said the aide told her to stay out of it. She's scared, but she'll testify if she gets protection. That's enough to reopen it. Maybe. But the department's not interested in the truth. They're interested in control. Lively stared at the envelope. Then we take it higher. To who? He didn't answer. He picked up his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. When the line clicked, a woman's voice answered. State Attorney's Office. This is Davis. Mary, Lively said. It's Grant. A pause. You shouldn't be calling me. I've got evidence showing judicial misconduct and a departmental cover-up. Another pause. Then, quietly, bring it to my office, tonight. The drive downtown was quiet. The rain blurred the city lights into streaks of silver and red. Lively's car smelled of old leather and coffee, the last remnants of his former life. When he pulled into the underground lot of the state attorney's building, he saw her waiting under the overhang, Mary Davis, Assistant Attorney General. Her umbrella was tilted low, her expression hard to read. Inside her office, she locked the door before speaking. You're risking a felony charge, Grant, she said. Leaking evidence during an internal review is obstruction. I didn't leak it. I released it. They buried it first, she studied him. And you expect me to go after a sitting judge based on a YouTube video? He placed the envelope on her desk. Not just the video, everything. She opened it. As she read, her expression shifted, from skepticism to concern. Then anger. Where did you get this? Does it matter? She looked up. If this is authentic, it's not just a bad arrest. It's criminal coercion. It's authentic. She closed the file. Then you didn't lose your job. You started a war. 2 days passed. The news cycle churned. The department's statement dominated headlines. Officer terminated following improper conduct. Case closed. But then a smaller story began to surface. Whistleblower footage suggests judicial interference in local arrest. The story came from a leak inside the state attorney's office. Someone had shared the files Mary reviewed. The aide's name was in it. So was the edited video timeline. Public opinion flipped again. Cross went silent. His office stopped responding to press. The department stopped taking questions altogether, and for the first time in weeks, Lively slept. When he woke, the phone was ringing again. It was Will's. They're calling for a grand jury review, she said, breathless. Davis filed it this morning. Cross is under investigation, Lively sat up. You're serious? She's serious. She's making this official. He didn't speak. He couldn't. For the first time since the diner, something felt close to right. Wills continued. You'll need to testify. They'll subpoena you within 48 hours. I'll be there. And Grant, yeah? You did the right thing. He hung up, sat there for a moment, then looked toward the window. The rain had stopped. The city outside looked clear again. 2 weeks later, he walked into the courthouse not as a defendant, but as a witness. Reporters lined the steps again, but this time their tone was different. He entered the courtroom and saw Judge Cross sitting at the defense table. No robe, no composure. The prosecutor read the charges aloud: obstruction of justice, abuse of authority, and evidence tampering. When it was Lively's turn to speak, he walked to the stand, took the oath, and told the truth. Every second, every command, every lie. The room stayed silent. No interruptions, no objections. When he stepped down, he didn't look at Cross. He didn't need to. The judge's career ended before the gavel even hit the wood. Months later, the department reinstated Lively. Quietly. No press release. No apology. But the badge they handed back wasn't the same one he'd left on his table. It was new, polished, untouched. He stood in the locker room staring at his reflection. Neil stepped in behind him. Feels different, doesn't it? Lively nodded. It's not about the badge anymore. What's it about then? Accountability, Neil smiled faintly. That's a dangerous word these days. Then it's the right one. They left the station together. Outside, the street was quiet. No cameras, no whispers. Just the sound of tires on wet pavement and a city still pretending it was fine. Lively adjusted the badge on his chest, took a breath, and stepped into the daylight. If you made it to the end, remember, truth doesn't hide, even when people do. The next video digs into the internal memo that nearly buried this case before it reached court. You'll see how one email exposed an entire department's silence. And if you want a free guide on the hidden rules officers must follow during an arrest, it's linked below. Stay aware, stay informed.